to our channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about some pressure canning basics, and then I'll be canning some chicken broth that I've made. So stick around to learn more about how to use a pressure canner. So the first thing you need to pressure can is a pressure canner. It's a little bit different than water bath canning, where you can just use a heavy pot. You've got to have the pressure canner. So you've got to have the special lid with the pressure gauge, and you've got that seal, you've got your vent, and then it comes with this cover as well. And so this is the pressure canner that I have. This can also be a pressure cooker, but if you only have a pressure cooker, that is not sufficient for pressure canning foods. And so this is the one I have. It works great. It's got the rack in there. So the next thing you need is some mason jars, rings and lids, and then something to be canning. And so this is chicken broth. So I made this from one of our chicken carcasses, and after it cooled, I put it in the fridge. And so you need to do that to skim the fat off. If there's too much fat in anything that you're canning, then it can cause issues with the seal. So now that I've skimmed off the fat as best I could, we're gonna turn this on high, get this heating up, and then we'll finish washing everything and getting our canner ready as well. So now I've got all my lids, rings, and jars cleaned. One thing you need to be looking for when picking your jars is rubbing your finger across the top like this to check for any nicks or indents, because if there are, then your lid is not going to seal. So you want to be looking out for that. And then for the pressure canner, you need 3 quarts of water in the bottom. So unlike water bath canning, where you need to cover the jars, with pressure canning, you just need 3 quarts. And then I'm going to add about a tablespoon or so of vinegar, and that helps to prevent any staining or buildup on the jars and the canner. You can see that I did not do that like the first few times, so that's why there's some staining in my canner. So next I went ahead and put the lid on top of the canner, turned this on high so that this can be heating up, and by the time this is ready, my broth will be hot and I'll have my jars filled, and so the canner will be ready for me to actually put the jars in and begin that part of the process. So now my broth is nice and hot, and I've started filling up my jars. So I've got this funnel to help with any spills, and then everything that you can will have a guideline for the headspace. So for chicken broth, the headspace is 1 inch, and so we'll look for that as we're filling. And then after you've filled your jar, let's check that headspace. There we go. So after you've filled your jar, what you'll do is take a knife and just try to get out any air bubbles. Now with chicken broth, it's just liquid, so it's a little bit easier than when you're actually canning vegetables and stuff like that. Then you'll take a washcloth. It's damp, and I put a little bit of vinegar. You'll just want to wipe off that rim one last time to get it clean. You'll set your lid on top and screw your ring on. You only want to screw it fingertip tight, so not too tight, because that can have or contribute to issues when it's actually in the pressure canner. So I'm going to fill these all up, and we'll get them put into the canner. So just as I planned, this is all ready, and all my jars are ready to go. Now things in canning get very hot, so this is a nice tool to have to pick up your jars so you don't burn yourself. So my canner does hold 7 quarts, but I only got 5 quarts of broth. So just making sure to evenly space them out in the canner as best I can. So now I've put the lid on and it is on a high heat setting. And so what you're looking for is for steam to be coming out of there. And then once you see a good flow of steam, you'll let it steam for about 10 minutes before we move on to the next step. It's a little bit hard to see on camera, but you can start to see the steam flowing pretty steadily. So I'll start my timer for 10 minutes. So once the 10 minutes was up, I placed the pressure regulator right there on top of the vent. And shortly after that, this popped up because that indicates that pressure is building up inside the canner. You can also see on the pressure gauge that the pressure is rising. So you want to be keeping an eye on the pressure gauge. For chicken broth, you want it to reach 11 pounds of pressure, and you want it to stay there at 11 for 25 minutes since we're doing quarts. A lot of food that you pressure can, you want it at 11 pounds per pressure, and the time always varies based on what the food is. And so we'll be watching this. If the pressure gets really close to 11, or once it does, we'll turn the heat down a little bit so that it doesn't get too hot. So then you'll be constantly adjusting your heat settings to try to keep it at 11 pounds of pressure for that duration of the canning. So now that we're at 11, I can start my timer for 25 minutes. I've already adjusted the heat down a few times. And so if the pressure goes above your desired pressure, that's okay. Of course, you don't want it to get too high because that can be dangerous. But as long as it does not go below your desired pressure, that's fine. If it does go below, then you have to get it up to the right pressure again and start your time over. So you definitely want to be watching this and staying close by. The 25 minutes is now up, and so what I've done is turned off the burner, and then I carefully picked up the canner and took it off the heat. And so the next step is waiting. So we have to wait for the pressure to release from the canner. So you know that that has happened when the little top falls or drops down. So you'll probably hear that if you're in the next room over. I know I always do. And so once that has dropped, then you can take off the vent cover, the pressure regulator, and you want to let the canner sit for 10 minutes to just cool off more and get all the steam out before you try opening the lid to get your jars out. So this step is important because if you try to speed it up too much or at all, the jars can break, and so it can be very dangerous. So you just want to wait it out before you get your jars. So now once it's time to take off the lid, you want to open it away from your face, like this, so that any steam does not go right in your face. So I just heard one jar pop already. Some take longer than others, but typically it happens near the beginning. And so you just want to take these out and let them sit undisturbed for close to 24 hours just to make sure that the seal has had time to finalize. So I heard 2 other ones pop. It looks like all of them have already sealed. So that's great. So now you have shelf-stable chicken broth. You can freeze chicken broth if you don't have a pressure canner, but again, this is a way to have it shelf-stable and not have to rely on a freezer. And then just to touch on the benefits of pasture-raised chicken broth. So it's just a lot higher overall in some different nutrients like vitamin E, omega-3 fatty acids, and beta-carotene, as well as collagen. So collagen is a big popular thing nowadays. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. Hope you learned something new. Let me know down in the comments below if you can and what you have canned in the past. I'm looking forward to another great year of canning, and so maybe I'll share some other videos about that during harvest season and everything. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.